Imagine a high-stakes game that ends in a perfect, unbreakable tie, forcing the players to make the worst political trade in American history. If we check our historical review sheet, that is exactly what happened to the United States. The year was 1876. The country was celebrating its 100th birthday with massive exhibitions, eager to prove it was united and prosperous, just 11 years after the end of the Civil War. That year, the Republican Party, based largely in the North, nominated Ohio Governor Rutherford B. Hayes for president. His opponent was Samuel J. Tilden, a Democratic governor from New York who carried the heavy backing of the South. Despite the patriotic parades and fireworks, the country was still deeply fractured. This election would soon push the fragile nation right back to the edge of total collapse. On election night, the system broke down. Tilden won the popular vote, but in Florida, Louisiana, and South Carolina, both parties claimed victory and sent completely different sets of results to Washington. White supremacist paramilitary groups in the South used severe violence and direct intimidation to physically stop Black Americans from voting. Because of this massive cheating, neither candidate secured enough clear electoral votes to claim the presidency. The map was frozen in a perfect tie. Anger quickly spilled into the streets. Rival militias began running military drills, and families started quietly preparing for a second civil war. The U.S. Constitution had no instructions for what to do when states submit conflicting election results. The government was completely paralyzed, and leaders were desperate for any solution. To prevent bloodshed, politicians agreed to form a special tiebreaker group. They assembled 15 men, drawn from the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the Supreme Court, to decide the winner. The actual decision unfolded in secret, closed-door meetings where politicians realized they had to broker a massive trade to get what they wanted. Republican politicians from the North made a firm demand: award every single disputed electoral vote to their candidate, making Rutherford B. Hayes the president. Democratic politicians representing the South agreed to let Hayes win, but they demanded a heavy price in return. The U.S. military had to be completely removed from the South. The secret deal was accepted, going down in history as the Compromise of 1877. Rutherford B. Hayes was quietly sworn in as the 19th president. This corrupt bargain successfully stopped a second civil war, but it only worked by throwing millions of innocent people under the bus. To understand the cost of this trade, we have to look at the true purpose of the U.S. Army in the South. After the Civil War, federal soldiers acted as referees, stationed there to enforce the new rules of the nation. Specifically, they were protecting three crucial new rules: the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which granted absolute freedom, citizenship, and voting rights to Black Americans. The moment President Hayes kept his promise, the troops packed up their gear. The referees completely left the game. Without federal protection, Southern politicians immediately broke the promise of Reconstruction. They reclaimed control of their state governments and began rewriting the local rules. Withdrawing the military was a total abandonment of 4 million newly freed American citizens, leaving them unprotected against the very people who had previously enslaved them. The direct consequence of this trade was the creation of Jim Crow. This was a system of local laws designed by Southern politicians to meticulously strip away Black rights. To bypass the Constitution, local officials created expensive poll taxes and rigged literacy tests, impossible exams designed specifically to block Black men from voting. These new rules legally enforced strict, humiliating segregation in nearly every aspect of daily life, and this system lasted for almost a century. The Compromise of 1877 kept the country whole, but by choosing political peace over basic fairness, the government ensured that the victims of that trade would suffer the consequences for generations.